All right, a little bit of trouble in the job market today. If you saw those numbers earlier, but we certainly had more people filing for unemployment. I mean, 853,000 first-time jobless claims last week. It was a big number, more than expected, highest we've seen since September, as the virus has been surging across the U.S. And with that, we've seen some restrictions and some jobs being cut. Steve Moore joins us, FreedomWorks economist. Steve, we've had multiple conversations about this, about what we should do. Should we have more stimulus? Should we, have more restrictions on the economy? But the reality now is there are more restrictions going into place, and now more people are losing their jobs, right?
Connell, I'm just surprised that people were surprised about this number. It was not unexpected to me. We've seen, and you've been reporting on this, that big lockdowns in big states like New York and like Chicago, Illinois, and obviously what's happening in California with, its 40 million people and so many of the restaurants and retail stores being shut down. So this is not, I think, a weakness of the economy as much as it is political decisions to lock down these stores, and then that leads to people losing their jobs tragically. So now, by the way, Connell, there were a couple of good news items on the economy that people should be aware of. The Labor Department also reported that there are 6.7 million unfilled jobs. That is as at the end of October. Think about that, 6.7 million. That's clear, almost an all-time record in terms of unfilled jobs. And that means either people are staying on the sidelines, Connell, or they just don't have the skills to fill those jobs that are necessary. The other one, you saw the report of a massive increase in wealth of the net worth of the American economy hit something like $125 trillion in the middle of a pandemic. That's good news. It means that the worth and the wealth of the United States economy continues to expand even as we fight this terrible virus.
Yeah, you could tell the economy. I mean, I know there's some disagreement on what we should do about it now, what type of action we should take, as we've talked about so many times. But you could tell this economy is indeed ready to take off once we get through all of this. I want to get a comment from you on job qualification, Steve, if I can. It was Elon Musk who made an interesting comment, as he makes many of them. He really went after people who have MBAs, right? The CEO of Tesla and SpaceX. He called for business school leaders to spend less time in the boardrooms, more time on the factory floor. Let's take a listen.
I think there might be too many MBAs running companies. There's the MBAization of America, which I think is maybe not that great. Just spend less time in meeting rooms, less time on PowerPoint presentations, less time on a spreadsheet, and more time on the factory floor.
Kind of interesting, the MBAization of America. I didn't see any comments, by the way, Steve, on those who have a master's degree, say, in economics. But what are your thoughts on this?
I'm in agreement with him. And by the way, this is not a new argument, Connell. I mean, I've been in this business for 30 years, and these arguments have been made that a lot of these degrees that Americans are getting, especially the higher degrees, are not necessarily worth a lot. Now, if you're going to get those basic skills in accounting and finance, obviously, yes, those have value. But they don't teach you to innovate. They don't teach you how to satisfy customers and give the customers the kinds of products they want. And those are the kinds of things you learn with street smarts. And if that's the point that Elon Musk is making, I'm in 100% agreement. A lot of times street smarts are more valuable than what you learn in a book.
When you think about it, and I guess Elon Musk is a good example of this, but so many others, when we do stories and have discussions about how does the United States compete with China, the advantage has always been our ability to innovate. The people like Elon Musk, the creative people in the world, most of them live here, and I wonder if that'll always be the case.
One of the things that makes America, I think, a special place, and one of the reasons I don't believe that China is going to overtake us in these technology industries and these new frontiers of the economy is precisely because we are innovators and we are entrepreneurs. And so many of those people who start great businesses, Elon Musk is a great example, are immigrants who came to this country with, in some cases, only the shirt on their back. And you think of some of the great companies in Silicon Valley. Think about, Connell, think about how many of those great companies, from Google to to SpaceX, were founded by people who were immigrants. And that's what makes America a special place, is this melting pot that really creates ideas and great companies. We've got to continue to let the best and the brightest into this country.
Maybe more of them will be in Austin, Texas now than Silicon Valley, but they'll still be in the United States if that's the case. Steve, thank you. Always good to see you.